Hey everybody. Today is June 5th, 2018. Doing a live stream on the one channel on YouTube that I can live stream on. The other one, I guess I have a strike, doesn't let me do it. What can you do? So here I am. I'm going to put this video up on my other YouTube channel anyway, after this is all done, since I'm recording it. The topic of today's video, we are going to dive into the prospect of an organic matrix. So when I first came into this study, I was ranting and raving about what was going on in the world, and there's still a lot wrong with the world that does need to change. However, the deeper we dig with numerology and gematria, it seems like there's really something else going on in this world, in our reality. My motto has always been decode your false reality. You see that on whatever media platform I'm on. But it's the true reality also that's coded. And it certainly runs pretty deep. Now, just last night, yesterday was my 33rd birthday, a very special one for me, especially since I have the 33 birth numerology. That would be June 4th, 1985. Add up all the digits in that date, 6 plus 4 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 5, you get 33. So I turned 33 years old yesterday, and it's funny, when I brought in the new year, I kind of told myself that this was the year to talk about the organic matrix. We got to wake people up to what's going on in our real lives. And I actually lost, just a few people who weren't into this idea of organic matrix. They thought it was crazy. They didn't see what it helped lead to. And I responded really harshly to it because, to me, this is very personal. There's definitely something going on here, and I like to think I have a good idea of what's a coincidence and not when it comes to gematria. Just spending so much time with the calculator. I mean, who's spent more time with it than me, right? The maker of the damn thing. Maybe there's more out there who have spent more time, but when you start looking at things, in your own life, it may take a trained eye to do so, to really understand these number relationships, but at least for me, there's so much here, and I find it hard to believe that me, the person who created the calculator, just happens to be the most coded person out there. Maybe a little more than others just based on the fact that I made it. I don't know. I don't know how this works, but I should really urge people to look further. And depending on how long this live stream goes tonight, I didn't really plan on doing one. This was all kind of spur of the moment. I made a post last night talking about the organic matrix on my 33rd birthday. And then today we get news of the death of a fashion designer, and it's all the numbers, everything I was talking about in that post, everything I've been talking about to this point. I mean, this death to the max has it all. I talk about the moon, solar eclipses most often. If you're not familiar with my work, by the way, if you happen to be wondering what I'm talking about, I typically discuss the language of gematria, and it's the practice of coding numbers into words. You're looking at the four most basic methods. These are the ciphers you see when you first come to my website, gematrinator.com. The two ordinal methods, forwards and backwards, and then the same methods reduced to a single digit. Just add the digits together until you arrive at a single digit. Very basic. So that's pretty much all there is to it. There are a couple of different methods. We have the Jewish gematria method, which I actually say is, possibly the most significant of this whole study. And it's just based on the age of the cipher. I mean, you're looking at the Latin alphabet, which has obviously been around hundreds of years longer than the modern English alphabet. And this was used to code much of our language, I believe, especially numbers and how we spell them. The other formula, or the other method, I should say, is the English extended cipher, which is built similarly to Jewish. It gives you really large numbers, but it's based on the modern order, where it's simply A through Z, whereas Jewish, the more modern English characters are placed at the end. as Latin was originally a 22 and then a 23 letter alphabet. So today we had the hanging death of Kate Spade. We're going to start with looking at this and understanding the concept of eclipse sacrifice and how people are dying in relation to solar and lunar eclipses. We're going to look at the Saros and Metonic cycles. Again, the two most significant cycles of time in relation to the moon. Then we're also going to look at the post I made last night where I talked about Gordon Hayward's leg injury that occurred by the numbers, which tells me that, there's not just people in a room planning events out. There is something else going on, whether it's spell casting, is it Mother Nature, is it the organic matrix? Something's going on, and I don't claim to know what it is, but I think the more that we look at it, hopefully, the more people, the more data we can collect, and the more sense we can make of this. After that, like I said, if I have time, depending on how long we'll go tonight, and whether or not the chat is working for me, I'm going to... let me check the chat here and just see if I have access to it. I've been streaming on Twitch with no luck lately. And we do have some people in the chat, so that's cool. All right. So yeah, like I said, if we have enough time, then I'll start looking at some crazy things in my own life, man. I mean, 100% of this is going to be true. Everything I'm sharing with you is true. Some of it is only so verifiable. I do have my birth certificate if someone really wants to see my name, because I have a weird name. Anyway, let's talk about Kate Spade. So Kate Spade is said to have been found in an apparent suicide yesterday. And, I have doubts about whether or not that's what really happened. How often do you hear about a famous person just mysteriously getting murdered? Almost never. And it's my belief that these media outlets have enough control between themselves, the government, and the police departments that they're able to carry these things out. Now, as we'll see, this might be the organic matrix. Maybe people are really dying by this code naturally. Who knows? But I don't have the answers. Once again, we can just explore them. So first, let's talk about fashion designer Kate Spade and just the fascinating gematria she has littered all over her name. So the name Spade, using the alphabetic order, sums to 45. S, the 19th letter, P, the 16th, A, the 1st, and then D, E, the 4th and 5th. You get 45. So you even have a 45 in there. Now, she was a fashion designer, and with the S exception, fashion equals 45 in reduction. And then designer has gematria of 45 in both reduction methods. Interesting that designer also sums to 81 in ordinal, because fashion designer sums to 81 in both forwards and reverse, and we're talking about a ritual here. Ritual, 81 forward and reverse. Spade was found dead on the date June 5th, and June 5th also has forwards and reverse gematria of 45. She died at the age of 55, which also sums to 45 in reverse reduction. And just for the record, 45 is just one of a handful of numbers that sums to itself in gematria. So when you write out 45 in reverse reduction, it sums to 45. And this is actually a special point in the geometric language that is gematria. So see how 45 equals 45 and 54. Well, 54 also sums to 45 and 54. Both of these numbers reduce to 9. 5 plus 4 equals 9. Interesting about this 857 also. We'll talk about this number. And I'll try to sit more comfortably so I don't get sore. Now, here's what's wild about this is that you type in her birth name, Catherine Noel Bosnahan. Oh, that wasn't right. Let's look up her Wikipedia page. Kate Spade. All right, so Catherine Noel Brosnahan. I kept missing that R. That's what it was. Well, it was her. It's her current name, actually, not her birth name, but her current name. She got married to Andrew Spade, who was the brother-in-law of comedian David Spade, and we'll talk about how his birthday ties into this too at the end of the post. So the name Catherine Noel Spade sums to 533 in Jewish gematria. This is the same as lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse, also 533. And if you measure from the most recent lunar eclipse, which was on January 31st, 2018, it was a total lunar eclipse, to the date of her death, it was exactly 4 months and 5 days. And this is on top of the fact that Spade equals 45, and all of these words, the date and her age, all with double gematria of 45. In English gematria, the name Catherine Noel Spade sums to 713. So we mentioned how this was a total lunar eclipse. Well, in this same cipher, English extended, the phrase total eclipse equals 713. Just like Catherine Noel Spade. Furthermore, in reduction, her name sums to 83. And if you pull up the English to Hebrew calculator, you'll find that total eclipse, you have to type in full eclipse actually to get the technical equivalent phrase. And if you pop open the foreign ciphers and go to Hebrew ordinal, you'll find this full eclipse phrase equals 83. And then solar eclipse is also 83. And her name, again, in gematria, using the English reduction method, summing to 83. 83 also a number for murder. Murder equals 83 in the reverse order. And this whole eclipse code around sacrifice, death, and murder. So when we're talking about eclipse sacrifices, what we need to make sure we understand is where this has origins, which is the New Testament of the Bible. Christ equals 290 in Jewish gematria. In the reverse alphabetic order, eclipse sacrifice equals 290. And it was the synagogue of Satan ruling in end times in the Bible. The synagogue of Satan equals 290. The phrase for total solar eclipse of, as in referring to a specific eclipse, is also 290 in Hebrew, and in the reverse order, 290 in English. So this is a super significant number. Think about Revelation too, right? Where there's that great solar eclipse, Revelation 6:12. Revelation sums to 1010 in Jewish gematria. 1010 equals 290. I don't know if that's a coincidence. It's just pretty interesting. But we're talking about eclipse sacrifices here. And what's so interesting about this, we saw the 290 and how this ties to Christ. In the alphabetic order, this equals 142. Now, 142 is an interesting number, right? Because May 22nd is the 142nd day of the year. And look how many days it leaves left in the year, 223. The moon equals 223 in Hebrew, standard Hebrew gematria. If I can find my own ciphers here. There, the moon, 223. So this is a date related to the moon. And, while we're talking about the organic matrix, you're talking to, the presenter of this video is me, Derek DeCoury. My name sums to 142. We're sitting here talking about gematria, 142. And look at my name in Jewish gematria. It's 522. And again, The 142nd day of the year is May 22nd. So we just keep seeing these these alignments in these I don't know, it's weird. By the way, the practice of gematria also summing to 203. My full name is Derek Michael J. Tikuri, summing to 203. And think about the movie, The Number 23, starring Jim Carrey, that talks about gematria. And my birthday has 23 numerology, 6 plus 4 plus 8 plus 5. My parents got married on June 11th. Not to get sidetracked here, but you know, their anniversary was June 11th. That's the date that leaves 203 days in the year. I'm their only kid. My name sums to 203. Hopefully, you know, this eclipse sacrifice gematria, this is not, you know, this is separate from my name. I think we might just all die by the numbers, though. So I don't think there's any escaping it, really. Just got to enjoy your time while you're here. So eclipse sacrifice, something to 142. And I was looking up what her Hebrew gematria was, just to see if it was relevant, and was it ever? So if you take this, maybe it'll translate correctly here. Yeah, fashion designer Kate Spade. And you can drop this phrase in, or this word individually, you'll get, you know, fashion designer. It's all pretty accurate. Right, so anyways, if you take this whole phrase and check the Hebrew gematria, look at this shit. 223 in Hebrew ordinal. We just saw the moon equals 223. And then in Hebrew gematria, her name is 1042, like 142. And if you think that's cheating, in numerology, these zeros are ignored. So this reflects a 142. Eclipse sacrifice, fashion designer, Kate Spade. Same numbers. So the story of Jesus, this ties to the ultimate eclipse sacrifice in the New Testament of the Bible. Jesus is said to have died at 33 years of age. 33 in Jewish gematria equals 895. And this was the age at which he was a ritual human sacrifice, which sums to 895. This is what the story of Jesus, I think, is about, as told through the numbers. And even the man who betrayed Jesus was Judas. Judas equals 895? This is beyond coincidence. Also consider that Jesus sums to 985, which is just a small transposition of digits there. So again, this Latin gematria really tells the story. And look at Catherine Noel Brosnahan, her birth name. Catherine Noel Brosnahan. In English extended gematria, her name sums to 895. And then just look at this too. In Jewish gematria, you even have a 685. Like if you take that 6 and kind of flip it around the 8, you get another 895. So, you know, and yeah, that is playing with numbers, but also check this out. Her name is 22 letters and 3 words. 223, like fashion designer Kate Spade in Hebrew. I mean, that's just wild, wild stuff. Also, the name Brosnahan equals 151. In the reverse order, this is the same as Jesus Christ in ordinal, 151. And also, look at her birthday, December 24th. This is Christmas Eve. One of the most famous Christmas carols is Noel, and her middle name is Noel. Born on Christmas Eve, the day before Christianity celebrates the birth of Jesus. The parallels are undeniable. Now, if you take out her middle name and go with what her common name would be, Catherine Brosnahan, you get 303 using the reverse alphabetic order. And if you pop open single reduction, you get a 93. Crucifixion of Jesus Christ sums to 303 using the alphabetic order. Again, that's what this ritual through the numbers is reliving. And this is the same in the Jewish order also. You get a double 303. So as far as 33, remember, Jesus was crucified under a solar eclipse, according to the Bible, at age 33. The word eclipse equals 33 in the standard reduction method. And if you think about it, this ties us directly to the Hebrew gematria of eclipse. If you type out 33, you get 156. And in Hebrew gematria, just the word eclipse, you don't even technically need this second word here. If you flip them, you see you get eclipse just from this word alone. And in Hebrew gematria, that sums to 156. So how fitting is it today that this eclipse ritual takes place on the 156th day of the year? She died in the city of New York, which sums to 156 in the reverse alphabetic order. And this is where we're going to talk about satanic gematria. Satanic gematria is a cipher that starts on 36. In this method, satanic gematria sums to 666. Of course, the number of the beast said to be 666. And again, the cipher starts on 36. The 36th triangular number is 666. There's a direct numerical relationship there. And again, satanic gematria, 666. So this ties into the name Catherine Noel Brosnahan. In satanic gematria, it sums to an upside down 666. Now in Revelation, it's verse 13:18, in which the number of the beast is revealed as 666, as it's phrased in the King James Bible. 13:18 is the 229th verse of Revelation. Catherine Noel Brosnahan, using the alphabetic order, equals 229. And just think about it. 666 equals 156. Triple sixes, 156. This ritual occurring the 156th day of the year. All tying back into solar eclipses. And if your mind hasn't been blown yet, it will be. It's going to get better. So we're looking at this date, June 5th. It's the date that leaves 209 days in the year. So the 156th day in a 365 standard day year, you get 209 days left on the calendar. In Hebrew gematria, solar eclipse equals 209. And just to show you again how this works, you type in eclipse, you get the phrase for solar eclipse, which is 209. Oops. Now, in the alphabetic order, total solar eclipse sums to 202. And this is a significant number. In the Jewish order, ritual human sacrifice is 202. I think we've already shown enough about how eclipses are related to sacrifice, but that's just another step. This date, June 5th, 2018, has reduced numerology of 22. Again, total solar eclipse 202. And if you measure from today's date, June 5th, to what would have been Kate Spade's next birthday, you find it's exactly 202 days. Now, if you take 202, like say 2 hours and 2 minutes on a clock, and you switch that to minutes, you get 122 minutes. Catherine Noel Brosnahan sums to 122 in reverse reduction. And if you measure to the date of the next lunar eclipse from her death, it's 1 month and 22 days. 122, just like her name, just like the conversion with eclipses. Wild, wild stuff. Now, speaking of the solar eclipse, we just had the Great American Total Solar Eclipse on August 21st, 2017. And again, I say this all the time, but if you didn't go out of your way to see the solar eclipse, go try to see the next total solar eclipse. I'm not talking about the annular eclipse, the total solar eclipse. Do your best to see it. It'll change your life. And I'm not the only one who says that. So if you measure from that eclipse to the date of her death, you find it's a span, with the end date included, of 289 days. And this number is super significant. 289 is 17 squared. And not only does moon equal 170 in Jewish gematria, a lot like the number 17, but in Hebrew, the phrase for full moon sums to 289, which is, again, now, I wonder what this is. I'm going to have to look this up again. Now it's giving me a different value for full moon. So I wonder what that phrasing is. Pretty sure it was 289, but even if it were 360, that's pretty interesting too. I mean, that's the number of degrees in a circle. So that part, the one big takeaway to take from this, though, is that Freemasonry, which was founded by the numbers of a total solar eclipse, was founded in 1717. And again, 17 times 17 equals 289. The word Mason equals 17. Now, the 17th triangular number, if you add every number up 1 through 17, you get 153. And the term fashion designer equals 153. And this fashion designer died 289 days after the eclipse. Also, check out the reverse order, 252. When she died, she was exactly 20,252 days old. So, once again, that seems to tie in doubly. A couple interesting numbers in English extended and Jewish. Not going to talk about those right now yet. So she died at the age of 55. In single reduction, the word sacrifice sums to 55. This is where the S is worth 10 because it's only reduced once. The 55th prime number is 257, as you see on the screen there, and total solar eclipse equals 257, as does blood sacrifice 257. So she also died in relation to the next American total solar eclipse. If you measure to August 8th of 2024, you get 70 months and 3 days. The word sacrifice equals 73. And then ritual sacrifice equals 73 in reduction. And then if you measure to the total lunar eclipse from her death, it's 7 weeks and 3 days. So her death is perfectly aligned to both Great American total solar eclipses that create an X over the nation, a little less than 7 years apart, and the two total lunar eclipses that occur in the year 2018. It's pretty amazing. What I also want to point out, too, is that measuring to that 2024 eclipse, if you include the end date, it's exactly 70 months and 4 days. And total solar eclipse equals 704 in Jewish gematria. One more look at her birth name, and we're going to talk about the number 13. And the number 13, super significant to the moon. Moon completes 13 lunar phases every couple years. It starts with the 13th letter. The number 13 equals 99, just like the moon in the reverse alphabetic order. So check this out. Catherine Noel Brosnahan sums to 103 in reduction, and this reflects the number 13. When we started the video out, we were talking about all the 45s in relation to her death, the number 13 equals 45 in reduction and reverse reduction. And 13 is a number that's related to sacrifice. Ritual human sacrifice equals 103 in single reduction, a cipher which sometimes I feel like I should just leave open. Also, 13 equals 347 in Jewish gematria, and the word sacrifice in Hebrew equals 347. There's a cipher I kind of give it a nickname, KFW, the killing cipher. It has something to do with the number 3119. It's a little complicated. I'm not going to get into it now. But this cipher seems to be significant in death rituals. And when you write out fashion designer Kate Spade, her name, you get 347 in that Kabbalah method. Her husband, by the way, was Andrew Spade, and this guy's got some amazing gematria, especially in prime numbers. Prime numbers, 347, that number we were just talking about. And then trigonal, it sums to 930, like 93, the sun 93 million miles away. Saturn, the keeper of time, Saturn summing to 93. And then just look, he's got an 830 in extended. Remember, 83 is the gematria of total and solar eclipse up here in Hebrew. Now, time in Yiddish sums to 119. Also, total solar eclipse equals 119 in Hebrew ordinal. So, and then, total eclipse, 47. Andrew Spade, 47, 187, just like total eclipse. So this guy's got all sorts of numbers as well. Back to where we were on the number 13, though. We saw how the Hebrew gematria of fashion designer Kate Spade sums to 223 and 1042, both extremely relevant numbers to the moon and eclipse sacrifice. Well, what if you write out fashion designer Kate Spade using the English alphabet? Now, instead of the Saros cycle, which is 223 synodic months, well, now we're talking about the Metonic cycle, which is 235 synodic months, synced up with 19 years. And would you believe this? Fashion designer Kate Spade, in reduction, sums to 109, and in the alphabetic order, sums to 235. And what was the date that we landed on the moon? July 20th, 1969, right? That's what they say. July 20th, the date written 720. Fashion designer Kate Spade, 720 in Jewish gematria. How is this possible? I mean, what the fuck is going on? I mean, I'm just like... it's just unbelievable that someone would like this would even exist in the first place, like with just the perfect numbers. Just looking back at this this whole idea about the number 93 being significant to Christianity. So the sun, they say it's 93 million miles away. It's missing something. Anyways, crucifix and Nazareth both sum to 93 in the alphabetic order. It's said that Jesus was crucified on the 93rd day of the year between 9 and 3, like 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. It's a super significant number. Christianity in Sumerian sums to 930 as well. So her name in single reduction sums to 93. And just recently, she opened up a new fashion line. Not that I knew this before I researched her death or anything, but Frances Valentine sums to 93 in the reverse method. So this number seems to be stamped on her in multiple ways. As far as the number 93, by the way, 93 equals 154, just like ritual sacrifice. 154, we're talking about 22 times 7. 93 in the alphabetic order equals 143. This is the Hebrew gematria of the word for circle. The circle, that's what represents the passage of time. It's signified by the moon, the biggest circle in the sky. Total eclipse in Hebrew, standard gematria, summing to 227. Again, 22 divided by 7. On a calculator, it gives you the first 3 digits of pi. And in gematria, 22 divided by 7 equals 314, like the first 3 digits of pi. It's the smallest equation you can use to get that. So we're talking about Kate Spade, and there's someone very famous that she's related to. That's David Spade. Remember David Spade? Maybe you don't. If you're young, you might not. But yeah, this was a big comedian from the 90s. He was on Saturday Night Live. And look at his birthday, 7/22, July 22nd, like 22/7. Now, if you measure from his birthday to the date that she died, it's 318 days. And if you take 7 divided by 22, you get 0.318 repeating. So it's just layers upon layers upon layers of coding into these rituals. And I barely know what to make of it. I mean, if she was really ritualistically sacrificed and murdered by the dark occult, how is it, again, that she just has these numbers to begin with? Like, it's almost as if it was meant to happen, right? And that's maybe maybe that's what they want us to think by only killing people who have these numbers. But sometimes you just have to take a step back and wonder what's going on. And in a minute, we'll look at this other Organic Matrix episode with Gordon Hayward of the Boston Celtics and his injury. Because, yeah, I mean, this is crazy stuff, isn't it? And so who do we have in the chat? We got guys arguing about flat Earth. Oh, God. It's funny how the internet will take anything and twist it into a flat Earth debate. It's kind of fascinating. It's like 6 steps to Kevin Bacon. How many things do I have to say in a video before someone takes it, twists it, and starts talking about flat fucking Earth? You people are morons just for talking about it. It's unreal. I mean, who cares? We're living in a realm. That's all you need to know. This planet is not what we're told it was. We're not just here randomly. Things aren't just happening by chance. The stars are telling us something. These numbers are telling us something. I mean, I can't tell you what exactly yet. But who cares about what the fuck else they're lying to us about? I mean, if it's... Well, I shouldn't say it that way. That's... Hey, if the Earth's flat, I want to know, right? I mean, I think that would be crazy, because that would blow my mind. Yeah, let's talk about the Mandela effect while we're at it too, right? Let's talk about which reality we woke up in. Were you from the Chick-fil-A reality with the K or the C? Which reality are you from? For fuck's sake, people. Oh my God. All right. So we're going to look at the blog post I made last night. And for anyone who's thinking this guy faked his injury, because some people on YouTube actually tried telling me this was a fake injury and that maybe there was a green screen and maybe there were just enough people in the crowd planted to react to the injury as if it were real. I was like, dude, you're crazy. You're out of your mind. And I definitely think he is crazy, because this is a 100% real injury. And I'm gonna actually pull this up and show you guys. Okay, now before I go on with this video, I just want to warn everybody watching. If you're queasy, if you have a sore stomach, if you can't stand to see people get injured or blood or broken bones or twisted legs or anything like that, please turn away, because this is pretty filthy. So here we go. Here's the play.
Hayward came down so hard. Okay, Hayward broke his leg. Hayward has broken his leg. Hayward has broken his leg.
So there you have it. Busted ass leg. No doubt about it. He broke his leg. That ain't fake. It ain't no lie. Mind you, this happened 2 days after I made a very, very popular video claiming that Aaron Rodgers faked his collarbone injury. And it's just funny that we get this, death that's so coated with the moon the day after I make a post about this. It's like, if someone's trying to tell me something, if that's what's going on, then they're definitely throwing me some hints, I guess. But yeah, that's a pretty nasty injury, isn't it? Dude broke his leg, okay? And now we're going to talk about the numerology of this and how fucking crazy it is. So, let's go back to the simple gematria of the word moon. In Jewish gematria, 170. Gordon Hayward was born on March 23rd, 1990. And he broke his leg on the date October 17th of last year. So Gordon Hayward's birthday, 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 9 plus 0, sums to 17. The date he broke his leg using this same calculation method, 1 plus 0 plus 1 plus 7 plus 1 plus 7 equals 17. Not only that, but this is the 17th day of the year 17, or the 17th day of the month in the year 17. So there's lots of 17s here. Gordon Hayward, as you can see in the picture there on the left, he wears number 20. And when you write out the number 20 using the alphabetic order, it sums to 107, a lot like the number 17. Now, we just mentioned this number before because it was the gematria of fashion designer. Well, if you add up every number 1 through 17, it sums to 153. So the name Gordon Hayward equals 153 in the alphabetic order. This is the 17th triangular number. Also worth mentioning, the name Hayward equals 109 in the reverse order. The number 17 equals 109 in the standard order. And look at what they said his injury was on Wikipedia. So let's go to Gordon Hayward Wiki. And if you scroll down to the part about his 2017 season, look how they describe this. He suffered a fractured tibia and dislocated ankle. Seems like very straightforward, right? Like he had two main injuries, fractured the tibia, dislocated the ankle, and that's what it certainly looked like. In gematria, this sums to 1,007 using the Jewish method. Another frickin' 17. And then look at how old he was on the date of the injury. He was 10,070 days old. And he really broke his leg. So we're going to write out the number 17 in Jewish gematria. Again, I say this cipher is most significant when you spell out numbers. It seems like there's something really magical about the spelling of numbers in Jewish gematria. Well, here 17 equals 990. Gordon Hayward, using the English Kabbalah, sums to 99. But never mind that, because his full name is Gordon Daniel Hayward. The name Daniel equals 99, by the way, using English extended. But in both reduction and reverse reduction, Gordon Daniel Hayward equals 99. And again, the moon equals 99 in the reverse alphabetic order. And think about how this past recent Great American Total Solar Eclipse, it was 99 years after the last time we had a coast-to-coast total solar eclipse in the United States. And the moon is connected to the number 99 in another way. If you write out 99, it sums to 57 in reduction. And the word moon equals 57 ordinal. The moon ranges 57 degrees from the ecliptic, 23.5 degrees, or 28.5 degrees in each direction. And if you measure from the date of the eclipse, when the moon crossed in front of the sun, to the date he broke his leg, it was 57 days before. There's also a very beautiful connection between the gematria of moon in the alphabetic order and in Jewish gematria, and I want to share that with you. Again, moon equals 57, alphabetic order. When you write out the number 57 in Jewish gematria, it sums to 1,361. 1,361 is the 218th prime number. This moon ritual occurring in the year 2018, like 218, and in Hebrew gematria, the word moon equals 218. And when I first thought about the injury, he broke his leg and messed up his ankle. It was just a leg injury, right? Leg injury. 1361, the 218th prime number. I just couldn't believe that when I punched it up. I was just like, really? The same as 57? 57 days after the eclipse, he gets a leg injury? Holy shit. So there's even more with this guy as far as the moon goes, right? So we were, talking about moon, how this sums to 170. Well, the moon sums to 283. Gordon Hayward, born on March 23rd of 1990, that's the date that leaves 283 days in the year. And check this out about the date, March 23rd. This is a very moony date, if you will. I remember my best friend growing up, his birthday was March 23rd. I just remembered that now. That's kind of trippy. And March 23rd equals 223 in the reverse order. Just like the moon in Hebrew gematria. This is, okay, it's the 82nd day of the year. It's the 83rd day of the year in leap years, so never mind. And the date that he suffered the injury was 22 weeks and 3 days before his birthday. And then on the other side, we have 209 in the alphabetic order. And he was 209 days after his birthday, if you include the end date. So March 23rd, measuring to October 17th, has these, really wild connections, and they tie into this whole thing. Also, March 23rd, I didn't even notice this. March 23rd equals 2108 in English Extended, like 218. We just saw that with the moon, with the word for moon. And then solar eclipse equals 209. We saw this. We were talking about the death of Kate Spade. So, yeah, March 23rd, 209, injured 209 days after his birthday. One more look at Gordon Daniel Hayward, his full name. Just to verify, I'm not making shit up on my channel. I haven't done it yet. Gordon Daniel Hayward equals 99 in reduction and reverse full reduction. Well, in the alphabetic order, in the Jewish order, ancient Jewish gematria, Gordon Daniel Hayward sums to 1,704. And remember, Kate Spade just died 70 months, 4 days before the total solar eclipse, which is 704. You just throw a 1 in front of that number, you get the gematria of Gordon Daniel Hayward. And then look at what date he signed with the Celtics. He announced that he was going to sign with the Celtics on the date July 4th, written 704 here in the United States, our Independence Day. So it was July 14th that he signed with the Celtics. I just wonder if there's anything in the date, between the date he signed and the date he got injured, was 3 months and 3 days. Oh, okay. I see. So eclipse equals 33. Solar eclipse equals 134. This measurement also converts to 13 weeks and 4 days. And then you also have 95 days. Eclipse in Francis Bacon equals 95. So yeah, he signs with the team on July 4th, the date that lines up with total solar eclipse. And think about how the date July 4th equals 156 in the alphabetic order. Eclipse equals 156 in Hebrew, as we covered early on. Now, the number that represents a total solar eclipse is 1331. And, I got a post on this. It's very detailed. Talk about the gematria of these numbers, 133 and 331. You merge the numbers together, you get a 1331. And there was just one total solar eclipse to occur in the year 1331, and it was on November 30th. November 30th equals 1331, and 1331 eclipse equals 1331. And this is 11 times 11 times 11. 11 plus 11 plus 11 is 33, which again is the gematria of eclipse. So anyway, this number, very significant. In trigonal gematria, there's actually two numbers that sum to 1331, and one of them is 35. Hayward equals 35, and both his birthday and the date he got injured have numerologies of 35, using the same method of calculation. 3 plus 23 plus 9, 10 plus 17 plus 17. And another thing that I just realized, too, is that he was born in the year 90. The moon equals 90 in the alphabetic order, in addition to him having the 99s in his name. So, in the first part of the video talking about Kate Spade, I talked about 290 and how significant of a number this is in relation to an eclipse sacrifice. Well, look at the date that Gordon Hayward was injured on. October 17th is the 290th day of the year. And this date falls in October. The month of October sums to 290. So how wild is that? The 290th day falling on that date, October 290, that should tell you that that date is very significant. 1017. And just to add to the level of creepiness with this injury, guys, we looked at the gematria of fractured tibia and dislocated ankle in Jewish gematria earlier. We'll check out English reduction. It sums to 129. And look at the score on the clock. He made the basket. Like, the basket went in. He made the game 12-9. I don't know what to tell you. So again, this whole thing related to the death of Jesus, the sacrifice of and crucifixion of Jesus, perhaps, right? Well, look at the time that's remaining on the clock. When they stop the clock after the injury, there's 6:45 left in the game. That means from the beginning of the quarter, it was 5 minutes and 15 seconds. And that's 5 minutes and 16 seconds into the season. Like you can see, opening night. This is opening night 2017 in the NBA. And think about NBA. NBA equals 17, just to add on to the 17s. I didn't even mention that earlier. Probably should have. But yeah, 5 minutes and 15 seconds into the game. Jesus equals 5:15 English extended. Jesus died at 33. 33 equals 5:15 in prime numbers. And if you think about it, right, so 5 minutes and 15 seconds has elapsed. That means they're currently playing the 5th minute and 16th second. Well, 5 minutes and 16 seconds is 316 seconds. The name for Jesus, or I forget if it's Jesus or Jesus Christ, equals 316 in Hebrew gematria. Of course, John 3:16, one of the most famous Bible verses about the return of, or the, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son. The 747 is pretty interesting. In Hebrew Sophits, the word for time equals 747. But yeah, the 316th second of the game. Jesus equals 316. Another observation about this, if you take this 6:45 on the clock, this can also represent a 645. And if you add 645 plus 12 plus 9, like the number of points on the board, you get 666. And 666, again, equals 156, just like 33. 33 equals 156, and so does Boston Celtics, the name of the team that he plays for, 156. And just like the Kate Spade ritual, 318 days after David Spade, and his birthday was 7/22, 7 divided by 22 equals 0.318. This game was against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland Cavaliers equals 318. And you have the CC, the 3-3. And Cleveland equals 33. I mean, I'm getting exhausted here decoding these moon numbers. It's just out of control what we're seeing, guys. I don't know what to make of this. I mean, dude really broke his leg. Right? I mean, holy smokes. All right, so this is the part of the video where it's going to get kind of weird. I'm going to look at my own personal numerology, and we already looked at some of it. It only gets weirder. I'm talking like God. Whoa. Sorry about that. Like God is active in this world, and he is just like pulling strings and just making things happen. That's what it seems like. All right, so I don't know. I can't explain it. And so let's start off with the gematria of my lovely mother. And if my mom's watching, hi, Mom. And I've talked to her about this before. I don't think she minds having her name out there and everything. And if so, well, it's too late. Her name... My mom's full name is Kathleen Ellen Tikori. Her name sums to 223 in the alphabetic order, and this is the Hebrew gematria of the moon. I know we looked at this before, but just to like cement it into my brain, it's too weird. Also, think about how, she's got the 88 in reduction. 88, the number that represents the passage of time. In reverse full reduction, her name sums to 119. If you measure from my birthday to her birthday, it's 1 month and 19 days. If you measure from my birthday to my dad's next birthday, it's 9 months 11 days. And remember, all-seeing eye equals 119. We're talking about, Saturn, the all-seeing eye. Saturn summing to 119 in Francis Bacon with the capital letters. My mom was born with the name Kathleen Ellen Bear, which sums to 69 and 93 in reduction. These are Saturn numbers. Saturn equals 93 ordinal and 69 reverse. Also notice how her Jewish gematria is 367. 367 is the 73rd prime number. Saturn in the English Kabbalah equals 73. 73 is the 21st prime number. And Saturn equals 21 in reduction. Now, if you multiply 21 times 21, you get 441. See that? The square root of 441 is 21. And my mom's name, and when she was born, sums to 21 squared. Another Saturn connection. You could say something about the number 15 too. The O, the circle, the 15th letter of the alphabet, but I'm not really big on that one. But yeah, that was her name. So get this, right? She then later went on to marry a guy named Mayashiba. He was Japanese. And in square numbers, Mayashiba sums to 1331, right? And this is where it just starts to get weird, man. My dad's name is Richard Harvey Tikuri, which sums to 130 and 301 in reverse, like 1331. And if you take my mom's birth name and add the Mayashiba and then add the Tikuri, her name sums to 1331 in Jewish gematria. And 143, this is the Hebrew gematria for circle. In Jewish ordinal, it sums to 314, like pi. Oh, okay, so let's measure between my mom's birthday, my dad's birthday, 235 days. That's the number of synodic months in the Metonic cycle, 235. And again, that's 7 months and 20 days. The moon landing was on 7/20/69. My mom's name, summing to 69 in reduction. And remember, the other cycle is the sorrow cycle, and my mom's name now sums to 223 after she got married to my dad. The date they got married was June 11th, 1982. My mom was, let's see, measuring to my mom's next birthday was 1 month and 13 days if you include the end date. My dad's name, Richard Harvey Tikuri, the man she married, 113. My mom's name was 88 in reduction. And if you measure from my parents' wedding to my dad's birthday, without the end date, it's 88 days. It's like, this is like the union of the moon, right? You got the moon equals 90 and 99. My dad's name is Tikuri, 99 and 90. And they got married on June 11th, 1982, which has a date numerology of 99 and 90. And again, the date they got married leaves 203 days in the year. My name sums to 203. If you measure to my birthday, and by the way, my birthday is June 4th. Birthday in what I think is the most significant cipher equals 604, like the date 604. I guess, it's all coincidence or something. I don't know. But look how many days it was from my parents' wedding to my birthday. I'm their only child, remember, so there's not a whole lot else to look at here, but it was 1,089 days. And remember how I was born on a date with 33 numerology? Well, the number 1,089 is 33 squared. And then I was born on a date with 33 numerology. My middle name is Michael, which is 33. Funny that just the consonants in my name sum to 33. The consonants in my last name sum to 330. I'm like a 33 machine, I guess. Again, my middle name was Michael, 33. And so, yeah, my full name, in the reverse order, it sums to 337. If you measure from my birthday to the date, so I have 3 older brothers. They're all half-brothers because they came from my mom's first marriage to Mayashiba. So if you measure to my youngest of those 3 brothers, he was born on 515. We were just talking about that number. Funnily, oddly enough, he was born in 76. And look how many days apart we are. 3,307. And my name is 337. My property tax bill this year, $3,037. Dead serious. There's more to this, too. Like, if you measure to my oldest brother's birthday, he was born on March 4th of 71, so measuring to my birthday, it's exactly 171 months. 171, if you take the prime relationship, you get 1,019. Remember, that's got that 119 sequence in it. And my mom's, what was it? Again, like if you put all those names together that my mom had, it sums to 1019. Okay, so that's pretty wild stuff, and I know there's more. I have a post on this on my blog. There's a section called Organic Matrix, and it's got all this stuff like to the brim. Just everything I've discovered about my immediate family, how we're coded. And again, this ties into gematria and the practice of gematria that here I am teaching. And again, all of this I discovered after the fact. I was, watching the videos from Zachary K. Hubbard, and he's talking about gematria, reduction, ordinal, some Jewish gematria. But no one was talking about reverse gematria. And, I built the calculator. I came on the gematria effect. And think about how the gematria effect is the radio show that I came on, to start waking up the world, right? Doing my part. Well, my name sums to 1111 in trigonal, which is that wake-up number, right? 1111, people call it the angelic wake-up number or whatever. And here I was on the gematria effect, which sums to 1111. Just blows my mind. But yeah, on the show, I start talking about reverse gematria just a little bit, just because I was observing it and noticing things. And then Zach started digging into it, and he's like, okay, this is the other half to gematria, right? So how freaking crazy is it that Derek Michael J. Tikori equals 1198? So does reverse gematria, 1198. I mean, you can't make that up, I don't think. Let's see, and just on the webcam. My name. That's my name on my birth certificate. Just so you see that I'm not joshing you. It's as legit as it gets. All right, you guys want more? We got plenty more to look at. Plenty more. Not even close. It's just really a matter of how long I want to go tonight. I'm actually pretty hungry, but I've only been going for an hour and 11 minutes. I thought I'd been going longer, so we're going to keep rolling. I'm going to check the chat. Chat slowed down a little bit. Is anybody watching? All right, we got 12 people watching. It's all good. I'll be uploading this on my other channel anyway. All right, so, oh boy. It's going to be a weird thing to talk about. Let's take a question first. Desi tells me we got a question. Why moon matrix instead of Saturn matrix? Well, that's a good question. I think they're both related. And let's go ahead and I'll share my screen here, and the full screen, that is. We're going to look at something interesting. Let's see. And this has to do with the relationship between Saturn and the moon. It's a very strong relationship. And the fact that this isn't even taught in school, the fact that this is not taught in school, right? This kind of proves to me that there's deception. Because this to me is the most fascinating fact about our just basic astronomy and our reality. So in the time it takes the moon to complete one lunar phase, there's exactly 29 and a half days between each new full moon, 29.5 days. It's almost exact, right? It's really close. Well, for Saturn, for the time it takes Saturn to rotate, or to complete one loop around the sun in one Saturnian year, it's 29 and a half Earth years. So the moon takes 29 and a half days to spin around the Earth. Saturn takes 29 and a half years to spin around the Earth and sun. So there's already a connection there. But it actually gets even weirder, right? If you drill down to the exact numbers and really go deep, you find that these periods are off by a fraction of 1/400th. And 1/400th is what they tell us is the same as the distance from the moon from the Earth in relation to the sun. They say that the sun is 400 times farther than the moon, and they say it's 400 times the size of the moon, which is why the moon looks to be about exactly the size of the sun from our perspective here on Earth. And yeah, there you have it. And this is all based on geometry. The sun supposedly 108 times the diameter of the Earth, and it's 108 times its own diameter from the Earth. Furthermore, the moon, of course, 108 times its diameter away from Earth as well. And this is where we get the gematria of phrases like full moon, which sums to 108 both forwards and backwards. And then geometry, 108. This is all geometry within the language. So the moon and Saturn are both related. They're both, I think, like one and the same. And if you want my conspiracy theory on it, well, my theory, I'll just say my theory because it's not a conspiracy, right? If it's planets. If the moon is some sort of manufacturer of our reality, right? This holographic projection, maybe it's being channeled through Saturn and then through the moon as an amplifier. That's just kind of how I envision it, like in my mind right now. I think they're both super significant. And we could talk all day about Saturn too. I mean, the gematria of Saturn and how that ties in. That's a video in its own, really. This ties back into 38. Just think about Saturn in English gematria, right? Saturn sums to 741, which is the 38th triangular number. The word moon in Hebrew ordinal sums to 38. So there's a relationship between the moon and Saturn in gematria as well. I'm going to look through a couple of these slides just to see if I got any more off the top of my head that's interesting. Oh, we were talking about circles and pi and, all that. 29.5 days. That's how long it takes the moon to spin around the Earth. This sums to 314 in the alphabetic order. And that's a lot like 22 divided by 7. 314. Oh, brother. Yeah, like I said, this is all a video on its own. So I hope that answers your question. Saturn is a part of it, and I do a lot of talk about Saturn because I believe the numbers of Saturn, Saturn summing to 93, Saturn is used for propaganda. Like the numbers of Saturn are also used in government propaganda. Also, Saturn 741. Is it a coincidence that hoax code equals 741? I suppose it could be. Just something to think about, in addition to the 33 in reduction and the 141, considering that 33 is 141. But it's just like the moon, it's much more observable from our vantage point here on Earth. And if it weren't for the moon, we wouldn't be spinning like we're spinning. Or, for anyone who's a globe-tard like myself and thinks the globe is spinning, if the moon wasn't there, we'd be going faster. But there's no reality without the moon regardless. So, again, flat Earth, globe Earth doesn't really matter. All right. We got another question. What is the sun? Well, the sun, I don't know. It's like the driving life force, behind everything that we know and love on this earth. It's responsible for our food, our light, our warmth, our comfort. It's everything to the human soul is the sun, right? And in fact, it's called soul in Latin. So one thing I remembered from when I went to go see the total solar eclipse, right? It was so striking, and it was a very emotional experience for me, and I just kind of let it take over. And it was very emotional to the point where I cried a little bit. I teared up, and it wasn't just tears. I was like reacting, like physiologically. I was having a response to it. And something struck me afterwards, right? A few days later, I was like, man, think about that. Now, here you are on Earth. You look up, and the sun, everything that gives you life, suddenly fucking goes away. And it's covered up by the moon. And now the sky looks like nighttime during the day. And suddenly, is the sun dying? I just started to wonder if all those responses I had weren't just beauty. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous. But is that response, is it not just me thinking, wow, it's so beautiful, I'm crying, or is there a physiological response emanating through my body saying, oh, the sun is dying, the sun is going away, everything's going away, and you're just, and it's, and it incites some sort of emotion, some sort of sadness. I started to think about that, and I wonder if that's true, because there's this old adage that I think it was the Mayans, I may be mistaken in this, but they said don't look at a total solar eclipse. And if you think about it, that would have been one of the societies that's down where they're, I don't want to embarrass myself with mixing up the Mayans, the Incans, and the Aztecs. The point is, one of them said not to look at a total solar eclipse. And maybe that has something to do with it, just because there's this response that it's unhealthy to invoke or something. I don't know. So the sun, think about in Freemasonry, for instance, right? I say a lot of shit about Freemasonry, and, there are Freemasons who deserve it, but I find the foundations of Freemasonry to be very beautiful, and, of course, including the language of gematria in this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be teaching it, right? And just look at the sun. The sun in the language of gematria sums to 787 in trigonal, and then 1487 in squares. And these are the two of the main base mathematical ciphers that carry over from the Hebrew language. And just look at the gematria in the Jewish cipher of Freemasonry. We get 787, which remember is the sun in trigonal. But if you call it the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, now you get 1487, which is the sun in square numbers, tying into 1487 Jewish. So Freemasonry has, of course it's not a coincidence. There's no way that the numerology that they've used is coincidental. I believe they are paying tribute to the sun because, you do have to believe in God to join Freemasonry. And, most of the people in Freemasonry are good. They believe in God and they're just bettering themselves and trying to be the magician that they were born here to be, to carry God's will into the earth, into the Malkuth, so to speak. And I feel like this speaks directly to that, right? Freemasonry, the sun, taking that life energy and bringing it down into the earth. Like, that part of Freemasonry is a beautiful thing. And I'm sure many Masons would prefer that's the only part I talk about and not the dark high side of it. And speaking of which, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull up a video. This is an interview with a pro wrestler that I found to be actually really fascinating. His name was Vampiro. And he did this interview. Let's see. And this guy talks about how he was doing rituals in morgues. And as a result of these rituals, because he had started to get involved with deep occult knowledge. And so he went over to Europe and actually like spent some time in Aleister Crowley's old mansion. And he just kept trying to learn more and increase his studies, and he ended up getting involved in some crazy ritual stuff. And what he says is that one of those rituals weren't properly closed, which is why these spirits are still following him to this day. And it's funny, you look down in the comments, and it's like, oh, this is why they banned chair shots in wrestling. It's going to cause so much head damage you think there's spirits following you. Like, this is a fucked up comment. This comes from a place of no wisdom or awareness. This guy is, I think he's totally legit. And I don't know exactly where he says this in an interview. We might skip around here.
Yes. Having nothing to do with furthering your character for TV or anything. This is just your own personal curiosity.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Is it danger? Were you ever in danger?
I think the weirdest I felt was my first steps in voodoo, which is voodoo. Voodoo is the French word for it. With a priest from Africa, with the animal sacrifices and all that kind of stuff. There was a moment in that ceremony because when you do these rituals, you do leave yourself open. And do I believe in it? Yes, because I still suffer the effects of these kind of things. When you get into really old school witchcraft, like I spent a week in Aleister Crowley's house in Italy, and we were doing these kind of things down in Sicily. And when you cross that line into these deep religions, you do these rituals, like one took 3 months to do the ceremony, you obviously bring into your life certain forces that you shouldn't. And in voodoo, when I did the ceremony, I was doing two at once. And you have a crown on your head, and the spirits, when they're floating, they see your crown, and that's the one, your guardian angel, that finds you and comes to you. When you leave that crown open and you don't finish the ceremony, the door is open, and these spirits that are so angry, whatever, they're flying around, and when they see somebody, an opportunity, bad things happen to you. And I have the photo on my iPhone. There are two. They're still following me from Guatemala.
Now, before I let this guy go on, think about how what he just said kind of ties into the whole idea of the organic matrix and spell casting. So we saw that dude break his leg 100% in relation to the number 17. And, they even signed him on the right date and everything. And is this like... Are the owners of these teams practicing some sort of rituals behind the scenes and then sending spirits out there to cause harm to people? And does that then occur by the numbers when they do that? It's as if these spirits, these thought forms, are a program that we've created, and they operate by a code or something. I don't know, but I just found that interesting in relation to what I've been talking about this whole video. So onward.
It's a very deep thing, and it's something I don't recommend, but it's just something that I like.
I'm not going to gloss over that there are two spirits following you from Guatemala from a ritual you didn't finish?
Yes, and it was done in a morgue, and there was a murder that happened. There was a shootout, and two bodies came in, and they were still there at the time, and they notice you, and they make a connection. Once you make that connection, and they're lost, and once there's that, they're still there. They're there, and every now and then, I know they're there. They make it known that they're there.
And it was what's following you from Guatemala is definitely the spirit of the two.
Yeah.
They're not rats that you did wrong that are following you.
No.
It's the spirit of two people that were just killed when you were doing a ceremony.
Yes.
And you didn't. It was just by happenstance that you're doing the ceremony and then they come in.
Yeah, it was, because we were in Guatemala investigating. We did an investigation there that's called La Fossa Común. It's like an Olympic-sized swimming pool, because there was a almost a civil war in Guatemala for like 40, 50 years, and the government was just literally exterminating its people. And they would take these bodies and throw them in this big mass grave. And we went to this mass grave, and you literally look into a hole like this, and you see 50, 60, 70,000 people. And all these university students that couldn't afford to pay tuition would come and take body parts to study for their medical classes. So we followed these kids at night to see how it really worked. And in that cemetery, there's a crematorium. So, and we asked, why is the crematorium right here? And obviously it was because of that. And it had this odor, and it was just something different. And the cemetery is hundreds of years old. And Guatemala is a very violent country. So we went to the morgue to see if we could find any energies and all this kind of stuff. And as we were doing the ceremony and the ritual and closing off the TV show in the morgue, an ambulance brought 2 fresh cadavers that had more than 4 minutes hadn't passed since their death.
Are your friends telling you like that this? Like I golf, okay? Like there's other things you could do. This seems very dangerous. This seems that you could have been killed yourself.
Well, I left.
You got 2 demons flying over your head now.
I left the wrestling world a long, long time ago, and I started studying religions, and I really put a lot of time into it. And my life has gone on, and I've gone into different things, and because of the television show I was doing, and to further my own knowledge and learning about our history as human beings, you come across these certain things, and if you really want to know, you can't ask, you have to live it, or you don't get it. So I lived it.
I'm not kidding here. Did you ever think about doing like a documentary or a TV show or
Well, I did a TV show
about this?
Yeah, it was on TV.
Oh, okay. I clearly missed it.
But it was from Mexico City. I slept in a morgue. I slept in this. I went into tombs. You can see it all.
What about a book about the different religions and stuff? It's fascinating to me.
It's amazing, but I didn't do it to talk about it. I did it for me.
Well, that's fine, but you've done it, and it's part of your life, so why not pass your knowledge on, your experiences?
Because one
It's
of
a private thing?
No, it's a select thing. They're not very open just to letting in the casual practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is where I want you to pay close attention to what he says and then what happens in the interview. This is going to reveal a little bit behind the curtain, so to speak, when it comes to secret societies here. So let's just go back a little bit here.
You really...
It's a private thing?
No, it's a select thing. They're not very open just to letting in the casual practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
You really got to prove that you're into it before they open the doors.
Sure, just that you're serious and you're not some guy who's just going to...
The greatest thing, with Thelema, was another religion with Aleister Crowley. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the name.
I know the name just in a casual way.
Yeah, and...
good Ozzy Osbourne song also about Mr. Crowley.
He was a real guy.
Yeah.
And, the whole 666 thing, it was because of him, and he was the world's evilest man at one point. He had a house in Italy that Mussolini and Hitler actually expelled him from the country because of his devil worship that was going on there. The house still exists. You can go to it. I've been there, and it's evil because he invoked certain things there, and he would do these 6 and 8 month long rituals that he became insane because of it, and a lot of drugs were used in it and all that kind of stuff. You just can't. You just don't go, hey, you know what I mean?
No, of course not.
When you put your time in, it's a small community at certain levels, they will find you and they come to you.
Wow.
I was some guy and I was in Los Angeles doing this, and the word had gotten out. I was in a German restaurant. Nobody believes me until I showed my mom the book. I said, Mom, this guy came in and I didn't know him, and he said, this is for you. And it was a copy of the book you get when you cross the next phase into Thelema. And he just got up and walked away. And he says, you read it once, you got to rip it up and you throw it away. I haven't read it yet. I still have it because it was just a moment that blew my mind. So when you get into those kind of things, it's such a small community that they know to find you, to invite you.
The organization that you referenced on your ring, that was an entrance into this world? Because from
No.
what I know of that, it's not...
It isn't. You'd be surprised.
Okay, so that's the most important part right there is the ring that Vampiro is wearing is a Freemason band on his ring finger. And that's the society that he and the interviewer are talking about when he mentions, the gateway to it. And listen to what, what I'm saying about Freemasonry here is reflected by what he says. Just listen again.
Invite you.
The organization that you referenced on your ring, that was an entrance into this world? Because from
No.
what I know of that, it's not
It isn't. It isn't. You'd be surprised.
religious.
It is and it isn't. It's very historical.
Yes.
And it's
Some of our presidents.
all of your presidents. This
That's right, guys. All of your presidents, Freemasons.
one is something that when you study and you learn things, names come up, origins of things. A lot of things stemmed from Egypt in that time, and this is something that was once you get to a certain level. I'm a very big fan of really knowing the true history of the Templars. Once I get to a certain level here, I will have access to people that take you to that level. So it's just furthering my studies. Yeah.
Do you ever meet Anton LaVey?
No. But I know all about him.
Right.
So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So he talked about the Freemason band. The interviewer mentioned, hey, someone on our crew, one of the audio guys, is a Freemason too. And he's like, well, yeah, it is and it isn't, but it can be a path into that kind of that craft. So when we're watching these sports games, what are we watching? Are we watching guys who are, purposely rigging things? And I think so to an extent, but are they getting help from something too? I think that could be possible as well. I just found that very interesting and very relevant. All right, so I'm going to check for more questions to see if anything else popped up. I don't know anything about a theory about the sun. Eric Dollar theory, no idea. How can we apply gematria? I would always caution against hey, I'm going to code this number, because it's it could be along the lines of what you just saw, where you're just playing with stuff that you don't understand. I think really what's important is intent. When you put intent behind something, that's more powerful than just doing or just what the number actually is itself. Because we all have, interesting powers here in this world. That's why synchronicity is possible in the first place, is because this isn't just one, A to Z point realm. Things can happen at the same time, infinite measurements apart, so to speak. So, what are we getting? Well, about an hour and 35. All right, so this is where it's going to get weird. So, let's see. Back, the first inkling I had that something weird was going on with numbers in this world is when I was 19. And I guess that's appropriate considering how 19 is one of those numbers from the Metonic cycle. And I guess it's also interesting that the woman who died here is named Kate and Catherine or whatever, because the name Katie is another moon. It's like a moon name, right? You get 19 years in the Metonic cycle synced up with 235 months. Full reduction, Katie's 19, 235 extended. So, it seems to be directly related to the Metonic cycle. And again, if you add 19 to 235, you get 254, and time equals 254. So this, I would say, is pretty interesting. So my first job ever, I said this is where it's going to get weird. This might be where it feels a little preachy. I'm going to try not to preach to you guys, but I'm just sharing with you my experience, okay? It was, I think it was the 19th. I know it was I remember the date to 9/11 now. It was 2/23. Let's see. Yeah, it was the Tuesday night Bible study. Okay, so let's see. My first job was at a Christian coffee house when I was 15, and then just as I turned 16 is around the time they opened. And it was actually run by a former Major League Baseball player, Jim Gantner. His last name, Gant. Here, let me see. Jim Gantner. Oh, he's got 666. Wonderful. He was the second baseman for the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm from Milwaukee here. And he and his wife owned a coffee house called the River Coffee House. And that was my first job. I worked as like a dishwasher, busboy, ended up, making sandwiches after a while. And so at that coffee house, there was a Bible study every week. And I went to one the week before this date, the 19th. And then it was the second week that I went there that I started to feel more comfortable. I was, making jokes and making people laugh and just was having a good time. And, I felt, like I said, I felt relaxed and comfortable. Well, at the end of the night, my buddy, his name was Jericho Houst. God bless him. I haven't spoken with him in forever, and I'm sure he'd be fascinated by what I'm doing now. But in the closing prayer, he said, if there's anybody in this room who needs to accept the Spirit of Jesus Christ, please give them the strength and power to do that right now, or something to that effect. And I said, all right, I kind of like this whole being good thing, let's see if it's true. And I was suddenly overwhelmed by a massive, like a heat bomb in my chest. I have no idea how to describe it because it's never happened since. It never happened before. And I wanted to jump up and shout and scream or something in happiness, but I couldn't. It was just too intense. When the prayer finished, I opened up my eyes and I was, I had tears streaming down my face, and they were like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I just had this incredible feeling." And they said, "That's the Holy Spirit." Once I described, the warmth and how I couldn't say anything, how I was kind of paralyzed momentarily, I said, "That's what that is." And they were all smiling and kind of congratulating me in a way. All I knew is that it felt really powerful. And I went home and told my mom about it, and she said, that's she agreed. She said that's what it was. So that was on the date June 19th, 2001. I just remember the date because, we went to the Christian bookstore a few days later, and it was the weekend, I think it was the 23rd or something, where I bought the Bible. But I just remember it was this date. It was a Tuesday Bible study. And look at the date numerology, right? 17 and 26. The word God equals 26 and 17. And what trips me out about this is that it was 2 months and 23 days before September 11th. And we're talking about September 11th. That was the date, the 254th day on the calendar, which is a number tied in with the Metonic cycle, 19 and 235, right? And you have the number, the date 9/11, total solar eclipse in Hebrew 119, time in Yiddish 119. Saturn in Hebrew sums to the 9th prime times the 11th prime even. So, a whole ton of 9/11 symbolism with time and Saturn and the moon and all that. Now, when you type out the moon, I got to figure out how to do this. I'm gonna kind of tweak this thing because here's the thing, right? I don't want to put her name on the screen, honestly. I think that would be kind of strange. I'm already what if I did classic? All right. So I'm not going to put her name on the screen because it's kind of weird what I'm doing already, right? But her full name. So her full name, using the alphabetic order, is 99. And then check out the bottom two methods. In English Extended, you have a 423. And then in Jewish gematria, you have a 283, right? Remember those numbers. 99, 423, 283. That's the name, or that's the same value in all these ciphers as the moon. The moon equals 90, 99, 423, 283. Her name does not have the 90, but it does have the 99, 423, and 283. And this was a girl that I worked with at that coffee house. And we were just friends. Everything was cool. I never, thought about her as a girlfriend. She was 2 years older than me. She was a senior. It just never crossed my mind. Well, one day I had a dream where I just woke up and something happened, and I was head over heels in love with this girl. And I don't know why. To this day, it makes no sense. It wound up being the source of a lot of teenage angst that I had throughout the end of my high school. And, it kind of changed me in a way. It was a very powerful thing because I felt so strongly. And it's probably not a stretch to imagine that I'm kind of a weird guy, right? Like, I get into unusual things. I have strange hobbies. So I didn't have a girlfriend in high school. It wasn't until I was like 18, 19 till I actually started dating anybody. So this girl that I happened to fall for just randomly at work, her name has the same gematria in these primary methods as the moon, okay? That's pretty strange considering that the name Katie even equals 19 reduction and 235 extended. Now here's where it gets weird, as if it's not already. So I was born June 4th, 1985, and if you measure from my birthday to the date of this girl Katie's birthday, she was, like I said, she was a couple years older than me. It was exactly 784 days. Now, when I was 19, a couple years after, I fell for this girl and then let that go, I ended up meeting another girl named Katie. And she was a couple years younger than me, and we went on a couple dates. Didn't have too much in common, so only saw each other a few times. Now, one day this is when I was younger, 19, I just thought, it's kind of weird that, this one's like a little bit more than 2 years younger than me when the other Katie was a little bit more than 2 years older than me. So I went ahead and measured between the birth dates, and look at that. Her birthday was 784 days in the other direction from my birthday. And even as a kid, I was just like, what is that all about? That is the weirdest shit. And, now I can confirm this here with my date calculator, counting the days, 784. But what's really strange about this date duration is that it's 2 years and 54 days. And September 11th, the 254th day, time equals 254, 19 plus 235. Katie equals 19 and 235. And both Katies were 2 years and 54 days apart from my birthday. The other one, 2 years 53, but 2 years 54 with the end date included. So this is the matrix I'm in right now, Now, what's funny about this is that, let's see, like, I still remember, it's so weird, man. All these dates are Tuesdays. I was born on a Tuesday, wasn't I? Yeah, I was born on a Tuesday. That religious experience I had was a Tuesday. The night I woke up with that dream where I suddenly liked the girl, that was on a Tuesday. And then September 11th was on a Tuesday. So weird. Just weeks apart from each other. And so yeah, like I said, from the moment I found God, so to speak, technically, to 9/11 was 2 months and 23 days, a moon number, and now because this girl was 2 years older than me, the girl I worked with, I actually never saw her at high school because we had split campuses, freshmen and sophomores at one campus, juniors and seniors at the other. The only time I ever saw her on campus was on the date September 11th. She was there to pick up, some friend, and I was walking through the commons and I saw her there, and I was like, what the hell? That's random. Well, now I look back and realize it's not so random. There's like something going on here. There's coding. There's something's trying to tell us that he's there. Like, whether it's the moon, whether it's God, whether it's a mix of the two. It's the weirdest thing, man. I mean, for this girl to have all those moon numbers and to be the perfect number of days away from my birthday. I don't know. I don't know what else to say because I feel like I've gone through enough strange things about my own life here where I just don't know. As far as who's in control of the Matrix, I hope it's not I hope it's benevolent beings, man, because you look at these ritual sacrifices and while we're talking about the organic matrix, I think this is pretty relevant too. Recently we had the shooting death of a naked black man on the street, and this was just the most it was the most bizarre footage I think I might maybe have ever seen. So the story is that police showed up, and there was this man who was lying naked in the street. He was doing like snow angels on the pavement, acting just completely bizarre. And he ended up like going after the police officer, telling the cop, "I'm going to kill you." The cop tried to tase him several times. The taser, of course, had no effect. This guy was clearly out of his mind at the time. And he ended up having to shoot him. And, you know, I have mixed feelings about, you know, some of these police incidents where they have to shoot somebody. Because, you know, what people forget is that if you're a cop, you have a gun on your belt. If you have a guy coming after you, he might go after your gun. So, you know, the way the cop sees it a lot of the time is that it's going to be him before me. That's, you know, unfortunately part of the reality behind it, I think. So I hate that this guy had to shoot him. I'd like to maybe think he can shoot him in the leg instead and save his life in a moment like that, but who am I to say? I don't know. I wonder why this is having a hard time finding this here. And Clifford brought this to my attention, and special shout out to the Militia Intelligence Report, Chris Dorsey, Cliff Eberhardt. They're all doing wonderful work over there, exposing the real people who are ruling by tyranny here. And this video, I mean, again, you know, it's pretty disturbing. It's not for those who are queasy to watch, but I want to show you because I want to show you how real this is. And that we're not just, you know, looking at some bullshit numerology. And here's video of him. He's, you know, flapping around in the street. Story is that he arrived at his other job as a security agent at the hotel, and a few minutes later came out and ran to his car naked. And nobody knows what really happened while he was there. And now he sees the cop. So the taser doesn't work.
I tried to, it didn't work. 427, shots fired.
So I guess the adrenaline wears off, and the guy eventually collapses after being shot down there. And, you know, I've watched the rest of this video. I won't watch the rest of it, but the reaction of the officers, everything seems very legit, very natural. I mean, this guy's upset that he had to shoot a guy. And this, you know, there's a black cop too. Not that really matters, of course, but just saying, you know, something really strange is going on with this. And in this story, I want to talk about the English Kabbalah. The name of this man is what trips me out. And unlike a lot of hoax deaths in the media, you can actually go and find this man's obituary and funeral information. I did not see the video of the family's reaction, and Cliff said it was definitely legit. And judging by the video, I do think this was real. I mean, this was 100% legit. Marcus David Lamar Peters was his name. And what I noticed is that in all three Kabbalah ciphers, his name sums to 269. And this is a special number because in the primary Kabbalah, ritual human sacrifice equals 269. If you take out the word human and just go to ritual sacrifice, you get double gematria of 212. And check out his birth date. October 15th, 1993 to May 15th is the date that he died. So if you measure from his most recent birthday to the date of his death, you get 212 days. And he died just after midnight. So it's as if it was intentional. So what are the odds of this? Ritual sacrifice, 212. He dies 212 days after his birthday. Ritual human sacrifice, 269. And this man's name equals 269 in all three methods. Is it the devil? Is it the work of the devil? And here's my fear, right? Because the question was, who's operating this matrix? Well, if it's humans and they're not benevolent, that's pretty freaky because they can just do this to anybody, right? If there's technology that exists, or they can give someone something to make him go crazy and attack a cop until he gets shot and killed, then why aren't they doing that to me right now? You know, I'm sitting here trying to share and wake people up, and why can't they just employ that technology on me and make it so that nobody ever finds out this information? Is it spirits? You know, I mean, he was certainly acting possessed, right? You would say that he's acting possessed, but what causes that? I don't know. How many months old was he? Let's see. He was born in 93. He died 153 days before his birthday. Remember that 153 keeps coming up. The 17th triangular number. Moon 170. So my hope, my sincere hope, is that what's going on in this world is that there is this organic matrix, and there are spirits, there are angels, there are demons, all living amongst us, living inside of us, living above us, living below us. And that, you know, there's some sort of code that we're interacting with them, and us being born with certain numbers affects our life path somehow. So I kind of hope that that's what's going on, and then there's this sect of people that know about this and then are using it. So someone asked me about chaos magic once, and I don't know exactly what the definition of chaos magic is, but I feel like that might have been what's to blame for Zach Hubbard's instance with his house. So if you recall, back in December of 2016, there was a guy named Montegraph, who many believe is into some kind of dark occult shit. People believe that, or no, he did upload a video to YouTube a few days prior to that accident saying that, hey, you should run the numbers on Christmas Eve. And then on Christmas Eve, Zach's house got hit by a drunk driver. And think about it. They call liquor spirits. Could a spirit have inhabited that woman, have her drive the minivan slightly off the road a little bit, hit the house? I mean, there was a witness to it. He went to the police. Unless the police are going so far to hoax Zach that they're like planting witnesses and planting this person down the street, I don't know if I buy that. I mean, why would they waste all that time? Why wouldn't they just fuck with him in the first place? So that's how I see this type of deal going down, you know, and hopefully there's some sort of spiritual protection that we're awarded, and hopefully I have that. That's all I have to go off of. I mean, you know, I'm armed, but I live in my own house by myself with a tenant who's only here some of the time. So, you know, you just kind of got to have that faith, literally. Otherwise, you'd always be hunkered down and not enjoying life at all. And I don't think that's why we're here. So, you know, one of my wonders too is like, this Marcus Peters, is this a guy who could have looked at gematria and understood it? Would this have made sense to him? Or is he just kind of like born here and he has a limitation for what he's able to accomplish and what he's able to see, and he's carrying out his purpose in life that way? Because, you know, for someone like me, like now, I mean, imagine me, you know, working a mundane job now. I feel like my job is quite mundane, but there are certainly, you know, more repetitive things I could be doing. And I just get bored so easily and so quickly. It's hard for me to fathom doing that. But there are a lot of people who do those jobs and they do them happily. Are those people just coded differently? You know what I mean? Are they just carrying out their role in the Matrix separately? And, you know, the movie The Matrix, is it just telling us that we're all just numbers and that we're all just doing our part? I think that's kind of the hint there. There's a lot more reality in that movie than I think. Yeah, I agree that it's non-human. That's my take on it. Just, it's too good for humans. What's going on in this world? There's more to it, guys, for sure. The number 13, again, anytime you ask what a number means, there's no right response for that. A number can mean many things. When you see the number 13, especially repetitively, That's kind of what you're looking for in these news articles. Like, these are some sort of ritual code. There's something pumping the number 13 in there. I believe they use them to hint you at the fact that when a news is a hoax or a fabrication. But I don't know that for sure. That just seems to be the ongoing trend. I think it's, primarily used as a hoax code. Just think about the family who had 13 children, that homeschool from hell, right? It was a hoax. But that doesn't mean that just because you see the number 13 that everything around it is fake or a hoax. I mean, just earlier I talked about how 13 equals 347, which is the gematria of sacrifice in Hebrew. So it could be a hoax code, but it could also be a sign of a sacrifice. You have to take it in context. And it is my belief that people are dying for real here. Back in August of last year, I did a video on the death of Darren Dalton and Don Baylor, and I got an email a few days later from a guy who said, "Hey, just want to let you know, Darren would have loved your video, and I enjoyed it as well, and we should talk sometime." I was like, what? Turns out this guy was his best friend, and we did end up talking over Skype for over an hour. And my question was like, I'm decoding all these deaths. As far as I can tell, there's some sort of fuckery going on here. Like, are these people really even dying? And he's like, well, Darren is definitely dead, and he had been deteriorating for many months, and the evidence was there. I mean, he had visible scars of brain cancer for well over a year before he passed away. And it was a very enlightening and fascinating conversation, because here I'm accusing one of these guys, Darren Dalton, who, is supposedly one of these players rigging these sports games, right? That's what we're told. Or that's what I've been positing this whole time. Well, it turns out that Darren and Richard, or whatever his friend's name was, which I think it was Richard, they used to sit down and watch sports games together, like after he retired, and they would look at the numbers on the screen and say, like, how is it possible that this number came up over and over? He was saying that what I was talking about in my videos was the same thing that he and Darren were doing. And that blew my mind. Like, wait a minute, like Darren Dalton, he's one of these guys who's, rigging these games, and you're telling me he was sitting around doing this with you too, and what is he, acting his whole life around his best friends since childhood? I don't know, guys. And if you read Darren Dalton's book, you would see that he talked about his time with the Florida Marlins en route to that World Series victory. He said he hit a game-winning double down the line, and he's like, guys, 13 years in the league. Funny it was 13 years, but it was. He's like, you know what your body's capable of. And he's like, that was not me hitting that double down the line. He's like, something took over me. And he broke down in the locker room and cried and just didn't know what was going on. He just felt something greater going on. And what I'm starting to think is, like, how much of these sports is magic? Some sort of magic going on with the owners. These Kabbalists taking these players with, certain astrology, certain numbers, putting them on the field on certain dates. Do they kind of know what's going to happen if they do this? And that's why, the Cubs ended up winning the World Series as it was planned. It's just a lot to think about when you look at it that way. The whole thing with the Cubs winning the World Series is perhaps the most incredible organic matrix moment of my life, too. I'm going to do a separate video on that sometime maybe over the next week or two. It involves the death of an immediate, well, not immediate for me, but my sister-in-law's father passed away by the numbers the day after the World Series ended. And I'm going to save that because it's a very emotional decode. I almost got choked up earlier decoding my life. Plus, I haven't talked to my sister-in-law about this yet. It's kind of weird to have something like that out there without having mentioned it to the family, but yeah, I mean, that was my real awakening as to this organic matrix. And it's a difficult thing to address because I don't want to sound like I'm placating the public, right? Like, when you have shills online, you have a lot of people who are telling people one thing in hopes that it will prevent them from taking action, right? You have a lot of people telling people the world is going to end, so there's no point. You have a lot of people, a lot of New Agers saying that all you got to do is meditate and just be one with the world and everything will be better. There's those positive thinkers. There's religious people who tell you that if you believe in God, everything will be good. I don't want to be the kind of person who says, look, everything's going on, everything's coded, it's all happening for a reason, don't worry about it. I think we should at least look and learn about it, and start understanding what is organic, what is really happening by the numbers in reality, and whether or not people are really being killed and sacrificed by this code. Because I've had deaths in my family, deaths of old friends of mine who I thought were sacrificed, but it didn't make any sense. Why would that happen? And again, I just think there's more going on from a spiritual sense. There's just a part of me that tugs at my brain saying that what we're decoding is our true reality, not just the false reality, like I said in Signs of Time. So, yeah. What do I think about Jesus Christ in regards to the Matrix? I wish I had an opinion on this. I'm going to take this as my last question, guys, by the way, too. And it's 9:03 my time, so this is a good time to answer a question about Christianity and Christ. Well, I shared with you my experience, where I was sitting with a group of people. I asked for the Holy Spirit, and I was overwhelmed by a feeling that I've never had before. And if you want my honest-to-God opinion, stick a gun to my head, I would tell you that this Jesus Christ Spirit is legit, is 100% real, and you too, everybody can obtain this. We can all carry this spirit of positivity and light with us. When Jesus is symbolized with the sun behind his head, that's the light. He is the light, the enlightenment. So when we talk about Freemasonry having the same gematria as the sun, it's about being that sun, being that beacon of good and happiness. So, I guess what I'm kind of leaning towards, my most likely theory perhaps right now, is that several hundred years ago, maybe longer, there was a guy named Jesus who walked around on the earth. And I doubt he was white. That'd be a surprise. And this Jesus guy was a good dude. He was against the establishment, which was demonic, satanic, and, oppressive, much like the establishment we have now running the world. And this guy was crucified on a specific date. And maybe it was a total solar eclipse. There was a total solar eclipse that passed over Jerusalem, I think in 1337. And I just wonder, was he sacrificed in 1337? That's the only one that seems to make sense as far as the chronology. They say in the Bible Jesus was crucified under a solar eclipse. Hey, this whole thing could be fairy tale for all I know. I'm not sure, but when you're talking about magic and ritual magic, earlier I had mentioned how there's this spiritual element where perhaps people are performing magic and then sending spirits out to cause harm. Well, is Jesus a spirit created by man? Could that be the case? I don't know. I wasn't around. I didn't meet the guy. But there is a good energy in this matrix that's alive, and we can all absorb that, I think, and carry it through with us. So if I were to guess, was he a real person? 50-50? I don't know. But I think maybe he was, and that the story's real. And that he was a dude who ended up getting crucified. Whether or not he rose from the dead, that could be a fable too. Like I said, I'm just a guy several hundred years later decoding the numbers. I don't know what really happened. And it's hard for me to hold beliefs. That's a difficult thing. Now I don't feel like I believe in God. I feel like I know there's a God, and I can see him, and I see evidence of God working in our lives, doing something over here, causing a synchronicity there, putting this person in my life on that date. I see that. I feel like I know there's a God. It's not like, I believe because I read the book and I think that it makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense, really. I mean, there's a guy upstairs who sees everything, who will send you to hell if you're bad. So, they've twisted the Bible and added some exaggerations in there, I think, and some simplicities where there are otherwise complexities. But there's elements of the Bible that, when understood in the alternate context of the Kabbalah, there's some overlap there. And I see the Kabbalah as like the kind of like the mathematical study of spirituality almost, right? Like it's based on the understanding that we're in this matrix coded, and by understanding how this world interacts with us, we can then interact with it. And that's why I believe they do things like false flags by the numbers, because that's their way of saying, hey, God, we're here. Ascend us. Bring us to heaven. You know, make us richer. Something to that effect. But, you know, the time for... And obviously this is knowledge that's hidden from us. And that's what pisses me off, because I spent... Thank God I didn't have to graduate high school, because I would have been there for a while, because I just stopped doing homework in junior year. I left high school junior year. My mom said, all right, you're homeschooled now. And I went that route instead and just did a little homeschooling because I knew enough in school. It's not hard. And I hated the school. Like, I was sent to detention because I wouldn't leave the lunch table because we were accused of throwing stuff, but it was the jock table over to the side, you know? And then I got sent to detention. I had never been in detention, so nobody came to get me. I guess I was supposed to know when I was supposed to leave. And then I just ended up leaving school. Like, it's a long story, but December 3rd, 2001, that was the date. I wonder what date that was. December 3rd. It was the day before my half birthday, I know that. $182 days after my birthday? That's a good day for me to make a statement, right? Derek Tikori, 182. That's funny. Oh, look at this. It's the 337th day of the year, December 3rd. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Derek Michael J. Tickery, 337. That's when I said, fuck off to school. Great day of my life. One of the best days ever. Because I didn't feel like I was learning anything interesting. So I spent, you know, third grade is when I told my dad. I just talked to him about this. I was like, Dad, do you remember when I said I got in the car and said I hated school? He didn't remember it, but he was just telling his friends at work that day how much I liked school and how good of a student I was. And there was just a day I realized, this sucks, man. I don't want to do it anymore. And that was in third grade. So from the age of 8 to the age of 16, I was stuck in a school where I didn't want to be. I was imprisoned for 8 years of my life, essentially. And, of course, there's no comparison between real prison and that. But, you know, most of your waking hours in school, doing things you don't want to do, getting up before your body tells you to wake up, spending a lot of the time in school hungry because your body's just not used to functioning at those hours. It was awful. And these fucking people who know this shit are just patting us all on the head and saying, oh, you go to school. You go to school and learn about outer space, you little fucking retard. I mean, that's what's going on in this world, and that's ridiculous. There's no reason for this. The world needs to be taken back. Kids need to be pulled out of these fucking schools until they're fixed and start teaching people interesting things. Start teaching people about the world we live in, how we're in a coded matrix, how there is purpose. Like, you are here for a reason. You know, do you think God built this whole code and inserted your life in this world without any purpose? Like, do you really think there's no reason? I don't know how to start the reform. I know that there's a lot more people working against me than are trying to help right now. I mean, there's virtually nobody helping. I mean, Zach, myself, a few bloggers, a few people trying to help stuff. But there's very few people doing anything. Meanwhile, you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of secret society members, whether they're high up Masons or dark occultists, who are putting out propaganda trying to keep the people stupid over and over and over again. And eventually there's got to come a point where this truth becomes like the more popular, the more viral type of truth. I mean, I would like to think that everyone out there who's wondering what's going on in the world and doesn't know about gematria would see this video and suddenly be captivated by it and realize that right away something is going on here. But I don't know. It's just a pipe dream. All right, guys. Thanks for joining in tonight. God bless everyone who stuck around for this long. It's been about little over 2 hours. And yeah, I mean, just wanted to talk about this organic matrix that we're in, and the tone on my videos has kind of been changing over the last several months. For those who have been paying attention, I was very angry and ranting and raving when I started, and now it's just like, hey guys, here's the numbers, and you tell me what's going on, because it just seems all too perfect, and it applies to us as well. All right, truth seekers, keep seeking and speaking that truth. God bless each and every one of you. Godspeed, and see ya!